Member Earl Tremolata.
Here.
Thank you. At this time, I will ask Benjamin Cannon, Coulter McCoy, William Hampton of Cub Scout Pack 452 to come forward to the podium and lead us at the flag salute. Yeah. Right up there.
Okay. Testing. Please follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, gentlemen. You did great. Awesome job. Very good.
I don't want to give up the mic.
You know, that's okay. You can stay, you know, we love that. Okay, at this time, I will ask, let's see, before we move on to consent agenda, I would like to note that we will have an added item, number 12, a police department update presentation by Chief Lynch directly after the presentation on the ACI award for Torgerson Skate Park. Also, I believe that we have a motion to remove item 10, AB 24-016. Am I correct?
That is correct, Your Honor. I move to replace, switch consent agenda item number 10, AB 24-016, and put it on the main agenda. Thank you.
Thank you.
A point of order. Does that require a vote of council or is it simply a request, single request from a member?
I'll make the second, yes. Okay, motion by Councilmember Elwood, seconded by Councilmember Rustic.
Mayor, may I answer the council member's point of order? So the council rules of procedure allow for a council member to remove something from consent.
Okay.
And then historically, my understanding is the practice has been that is done through a motion, a second, and a vote. The council rules don't discuss the entire process, but I wanted to provide both the rule and the historic procedure.
Fantastic. So with that, let's take a vote.
In the past, it has been the ability to basically pull it and then have it a discussion that anyone could pull it. And all it required was a first and a second. That's what the past practice has been. So you're saying that's not correct.
I'm saying that your council rule specifically says that a council member may remove an item from the consent agenda to be discussed. My understanding from your city clerk about historic practices is that has been done through a motion, a second, discussion, and a vote.
So I'm clear. Thank you. Does that mean in this case that precedent is upheld, which is there's been a motion to move it and there's a second, so it will be on discussion, or do we need to have a vote?
Currently, it's in discussion, and I believe that the mayor intends to call for a vote to move it to the main agenda. Is that correct, Mayor?
That's correct.
Okay, so precedent is no longer, we're establishing. I'll withdraw my question.
Okay. So
I think the confusion is past practices have been that a first and second could then move it to a full discussion of the council. It didn't require it for a full vote before it got moved to the main agenda.
Your Honor, just for I mean, we're having a conversation about this. My understanding, based on what I heard the attorney say, is the council rule in our own policy simply requires a member to say, I'd like to pull it, and it will be pulled. Now, practice has been that then there is a second and perhaps discussion, I'm not sure, and it's been put to a vote. I think we can choose to proceed however we choose to in this moment. We just need to get past it. It's been pointed out the mayor intends to call for a vote, and I think we can just go down that path. I think we kind of put a little post-it note on it for future consideration as council as to what we would like to be in the rule, or if we're happy with it the way it currently reads.
I truly agree what you're saying, but what I'm trying to say is we are not going to go with past precedents. We are changing the past precedents in the way we have done this in prior councils.
And to be clear, as a council parliamentarian, I'm simply stating what the rule is in your council rule that allows a council member to remove an item from consent agenda for discussion. I'd have to defer to city staff as to the historic practices and precedent if you have further questions about that.
Well, can I get a reading on that from yeah, because the past.
Usually you make a motion, you second, and you vote on it.
We have, okay.
Okay, with that being said, let's get that vote in order. Okay, all in favor of moving AB 24-016, item 10, in other words, to a main agenda.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, 6-1, with one opposition by Councilmember Mark Jocelyn. Okay, so we'll move that. Okay, we will now move on to consent agenda. We have 9 items on our consent agenda. Can I get a motion?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Yeah,
Second.
may I get a second? Okay, motion approved, or motion made by Councilmember Colin and seconded by Councilmember Elwood. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, thank you. All right, motion carries and is unanimous. Before we move on to, let's go back to, we're gonna go to, okay, before we move on to citizens' comments, excuse me, as indicated on tonight's agenda, if you are attending remotely and would like to submit public comment, please submit your written comments via in-person drop-off, fax, mail, or email to sopadol@northbendwa.gov by 5 p.m. on the day of the meeting. We are no longer taking public comment for those attending remotely via Zoom. Okay, we will now move on to citizen comments. At this time, if you would like to comment on an item that's not in the agenda, we would invite you to come forward to the podium. You can state your name, your address. You have 3 minutes. This is for the record. You have 3 minutes to speak. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. My name is Gary Stotler. I live at 1262 Haystack Avenue Southeast. And I have 2 issues, neither of which you folks control. But I am really getting tired of power outages. And I was wondering if you have requested a PSE, a plan with a schedule for them to address the obvious shortcomings of the grid in this upper valley. And I based on the last 24-hour outage, they were saying they have accessibility issues to get to the lines. Last year, when we had a 27-hour outage, they said they had no idea what caused it. And then all the other outages are about vegetation. So obviously they have not been doing a very good job of clearing vegetation. For the 2 long outages, it's kind of obvious to me that the power grid is antiquated and probably needs to be redesigned and rebuilt to power the valley floor here. And so I don't know what it takes to get PSE's attention. One idea would be for North Bend to require PSE to underground all wires within the city limits. That'll get their attention. That's all I have on that subject. The second subject is, have you noticed that I-90 is falling apart? Between Issaquah and Snoqualmie Pass, both directions, potholes, cracked pavement, ruts, and I don't know how to get the Department of Transportation to address it. I wrote an email to Senator Hopke. Is that how you pronounce
Hawkins?
his last name?
Hawkins?
Hawkins, yeah.
Excuse me.
And I mentioned a number of factors and that I was not very impressed with what I've seen from DOT management along the I-90 corridor the last 2 years I've lived here. You know, I mentioned to him, it took them 3 months to reduce the speed limit on State Route 18 through the construction zone from 55 to 45. And 45 is still pretty high. 2 years ago, they shut down I-90 across Mercer Island. It caused traffic jams of 6 hours within the city. And I just don't think they're doing maintenance on the I-90. And I don't know how to get their attention. So that's my second subject. Just releasing some steam to you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Stadler. Appreciate your stepping forward. Thank you, Susie. Okay, anybody else that we have in chambers? We can move on to online if there's anyone else. I see a hand there.
Mayor?
Yeah.
Are we not we're not taking comment online anymore?
Oh, gosh. Well, you know, some things are hard to break. And that was evidently where my brain went. So my apologies, everybody. We're sticking with that. So we're going to go move forward here. Hold on just a moment. Let me get back. And we're going to go to announcements, presentations, and appointments. Item 11, presentation ACI Award for Torgerson Skate Park. I understand we have Bruce Chapman with American Concrete Institute in the audience to present the city with an award for Torgerson Skate Park. Mr. Chapman, will you please come forward? And you are.
I am. Thank you very much. I'm Bruce Chapman for the Washington Aggregates and Concrete Association. Mayor Miller, members of the council, members of staff. I'm here to present to you something pretty significant, something very unique that you have in your community now, Torgerson Skateboard Park. If you've been out to the skateboard park, you see that where it's getting a lot of use. Our association gives out an Excellence in Concrete Awards program each year, and the skateboard park was recognized by our association to be able to participate. It's also being recognized by not only a local skater community, but national skating community, people that skate and do a lot of competitions. We've heard from people nationally, regionally as well. In our competition, we're able to nominate projects to the international level for the American Concrete Institute, which means our local projects get nominated and compete literally worldwide amongst projects from countries all over the world. I'm really thrilled to tell you that Torgerson Skateboard Park won first place in the decorative concrete construction international competition through ACI. So you now have in your community a world-class skateboard park, so recognized, that's gaining great notoriety throughout the skating community, locally, as well as now internationally. We've provided a video of what ACI showed at the gala, just to give you an idea of how the skateboard park was represented. So you have that hopefully on the website or wherever you can use it. But it is, if you've been to the skateboard parks are one of the more unusual concrete structures that people can make. Matt Flugie with Grand Line Construction, his crew, they're skaters. They know how to design it and construct it, and they do it with skaters in mind. It was great community involvement, as I understand it, going through the design process. They had a great time working with the skating community, yourselves, and creating literally, again, a world-class project. So it is my pleasure on behalf of our association and to congratulate you on your international award from American Concrete Institute Internationally. So if I may, would like to present you.
Be an honor. I won't follow. I'm not going to fall over. It's not gonna get me.
Thank you. Don't drop it now.
We're doing a pass round. Yeah, it's not gonna fall off the wall. I'm gonna protect it. Protect it.
There you go.
We're gonna just celebrate by sending it down so everybody can take a good look.
That's nice.
It's pretty cool.
Somebody will have to hang it to the wall. Yeah. It's good after it's done, yeah.
I don't see any flaw. Well, thank you again, Mr. Chapman. Let's move on to item 12. It's a presentation, Police Department update. At this time, I would like to invite Police Chief Brian Lynch to come forward to provide us with a police department update. Thank you, Brian. Great to see you.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. Good evening. Thank you for having me tonight. It's been a while since I've had the opportunity to come before you. Tonight, I would like to speak about some growing concerns in our neighborhood on the high profile crimes that we've been experiencing lately. Before we start, I think it's important that we let the public know about some of these crimes. I've provided you guys on the council with a memo that you should have in front of you now. And it outlines several of these crimes that have ended up on social media, have ended up on the news, and is the talk of the town. Things that are happening that are kind of unusual for our community. Starting in November, we had a Toyota 4Runner was used to smash through the front windows of the Coach at the North Bend Outlet Mall, causing $20,000 in damage and $14,000 in lost merchandise in that theft. That was a stolen vehicle that had been taken out of Burien that was recovered later on. The suspects were never able to be identified in that case. Things really picked up towards the latter part of January, though, and we had a pretty rough week last week in particular. Sunday, January 21st, we were dispatched to the Nike at the outlet mall for a burglary alarm with several motion trips. When we showed up, the front window had been smashed out, and there were boxes of empty boxes, shoe boxes on the sidewalk with several items where had been taken. That still, we have no idea who did that crime. And then came the one that ended up on the news, January 26th, the armed robbery at the Snow Falls Credit Union. That ended up garnering some media attention because of the pursuit that was initiated. We had an officer that was actually at the traffic light a block away when that call came out and witnessed one of the suspects running from the bank and jumped into the passenger seat of a stolen vehicle. And then it took off after we tried to stop it. We were able to pursue that vehicle through Bellevue, and it was involved in a couple of accidents on surface streets before it got back onto I-90 and was eventually stopped when a King County deputy got close enough to do a pit maneuver and to stop the pursuit, and 2 15-year-olds were taken into custody on that case. We had a tragedy last week that is kind of an anomaly in this list of concerns that we're having. It's a standalone. We did have what appears to be a murder-suicide. It's a domestic violence issue. So I let that one kind of stand by itself. You know, it doesn't fall into the other categories of crimes that we're experiencing right now, but I do think it's worth mentioning in this forum. That's an ongoing investigation. We did put out a press release this evening identifying those people that were involved in that incident. And then the very next day, we had an unsuccessful attempted burglary at the Subway across from the QFC in North Bend. That one, they tried to gain entry by prying the doors open, and they were unsuccessful in getting in. A witness called us and we got there. You know, had already gone, but we were able to get video of the actual suspect vehicle in that case, which ended up being the same vehicle used the morning after in the smash in front at the Shell gas station. They drove the stolen Ford F-250 through the front glass, and 4 people entered the store and were able to leave with the ATM machine. Now, through investigation, I can give you an update on that case. We were able to get surveillance video and photographs of all 4 of them. They were so brazen that they didn't take time to put masks on or try to cover their identity. And with the help of our partners at the casino and tribal security, we were able to run facial recognition on those photographs. And eventually we were able to identify all 4 of them. We were able on Saturday to place one of those suspects in custody. He admitted to it. He gave information on the other 3 people that were with him. On his way to jail, he agreed to take us through Redmond to go try to find the ATM machine. But he got confused, and along the way in Redmond said, well, maybe I was in Maple Valley when we dumped it. So we still don't know where the ATM machine is. The sad part about this is he did about 2.5 days in jail before he was let go on a personal recognizance from the King County Jail later last evening, yesterday. So he is not in custody. Felony charges have been filed on all 4 of them. It should be noted that all of these people are not from the Valley, nor most of or anybody on this list of crimes of burglaries or thefts is not homegrown. This is coming from outside. Mostly we see cars coming up Highway 18 from the south end of the county, and they do their crime in North Bend or Snoqualmie. One other one that I wanted to just point out before we go into some of the other information on this. We had an officer last night sitting in a marked patrol car in front of Nike at the outlet mall when a theft in progress came out. Well, it wasn't really in progress because there was a time delay. We found out that the Nike employees by policy cannot call 911. They have to call their corporate offices first to get permission to call 911. And by the time the officer was actually dispatched, the person was long gone. So those are some of the incidents that have been taking place in North Bend over the last little while, especially the last 10 days. I provided you with stats from 2022, 2023, and this is different than the first memo that I provided earlier last week. I've added 2024 so far, just the month of January. And you can see that already we have been at the outlet mall on incidents 80 times this year. By far, and we had the discussion earlier tonight with public safety, that by far the outlet mall leads the league in our attention and our incidents, our dispatched calls. And I tried to break down and explain to public safety committee members today that the outlet mall calls of 627 in 2023, that is all incidents generated by the police department that take place on that property. It could be officers that are doing area checks, foot patrols, they put themselves out on an incident, they let dispatch know that they're there. But it's also all of the suspicious vehicles that they find. It is the people that they find walking around after hours that they stop and identify. It's the burglaries, it's the thefts, any kind of calls that happen on the property. So just so you know that those are not just 911 calls. You can see that it was a 17% increase from 2022 to 23 in the thefts from the North Bend Outlet Mall. 9% increase in total incidents that we generated at the outlet mall. Now, this is not just a Valley problem. As we know, when we turn the news on, this is a everywhere in the state of Washington problem. And I've provided some stats that were on last year's Washington State Crime Report. kind of puts it in perspective on what is happening across our state. There was a 5% increase in crimes against persons statewide and a 10% increase in crimes against property from 2021 to 22. So we're working on a year behind on stats. We'll get the 23 stats sometime in the summertime to show what happened last year. But it calculates out across the state that crimes against person events take place every 4.8 minutes. And a crime against person is a assault. It is a violent robbery with a weapon. It has something to do with a person being victimized. And then the crimes against property, all thefts, shoplifts, car prowls, burglaries, every 80 seconds in this state. And that is a extremely low amount of time for from one incident to the next. Recently, it was reported in the news that we are now, the state of Washington is now ranking #1 in our property thefts in the country. So it brings us to kind of why maybe these things are happening. I've started to think about this and look at this. And I think that this is not a North Bend problem. This is a bigger societal problem in the state. And this is something that we are reaping the benefits of what I believe is a failed experiment in defunding the police, in limiting the police's activities, and our ability to actually catch bad guys and to prosecute them. There are a ton of different reasons why this has happened. And some of them, I will be the one to stand here and tell you that we needed to be reined in on some of those. But I think we've gone too far. And I think that's the reason why we're seeing an uptick in crimes that we usually don't see here. It's just taken a little while for it to come out here. And I'm hoping that the activities of the past 10 days are an anomaly, that we won't have to go through this all year. I'm praying that we catch a break and it slows down. But I think the problem is here. So back in 2021, we all experienced the push for police reform in Washington state, and laws were made that limited what we could do. And that was during the COVID pandemic, which shut down our jails. And we have never recovered. The justice system has never recovered, especially in King County, from being shut down for that long. The prosecutors aren't able to prosecute every crime letter of the law. So they have to come up with filing standards that are far more liberal, and we get decline notices every week for cases that we file. And they come up with a reason why they are not going to file those charges. Doesn't mean that the police work was bad or that the people didn't actually do what they were charged with. It's just that they don't have enough resources to charge the people with the crimes that they are committing, and nobody is being held accountable. So, like I said, the guy that drove the stolen truck through the Shell station did 2.5 days in the county jail and was released without posting bail. This was a personal recognizance. He is the leader of a group that has been doing numerous crimes in King County. That same group with the same vehicle did another very similar crime 25 minutes after the Shell station burglary on the same day in Newcastle. We were able to tie the same group back to a burglary at the King's Automotive in North Bend that occurred in August. That was an interrupted burglary. A teenage employee at the shop showed up and interrupted it, and he was assaulted on their way out. Same group. They don't live here. They live in the South County. We need a louder voice to talk to Olympia and to put pressure on them to give us our tools back that we can start holding people accountable. We've worked with I had a meeting last week with the management team at the outlet mall. And we came up with some things that we're excited about. One of them being flock cameras. They are cameras that can be set up at the entrance and the exit of the property that will take photographs of the vehicles coming and going, and it runs the license plate and the registration through a system that allows the police officers that are working to know that a stolen car has just arrived on the property. We will be notified of that. Everybody's excited about that, but I want to temper the excitement a little bit because I think the result of this is going to be just an increase in fleeing vehicles that we can't chase. And they're going to get away. They're going to continue to do what they're doing. Without some help from Olympia, I don't see a lot changing. We have sent down as a police department, the city of Snoqualmie has sent down to Olympia our legislative priorities for the session. We have been in contact with WASPC, the Washington Association of Sheriffs and Police Chiefs, which have also sent lobbyists to Olympia to try to help get back a little bit of what we are missing and in our toolbox to be able to do our jobs. I'm asking for assistance from the council and from the mayor to make that voice loud and to, at any possible opportunity to get our concerns out, that we take that opportunity to try to advocate for the people that we are serving. Because what is all of these laws and these boundaries that we have to play in, it's all that they have really done is victimize the victims and the bad guys go free. I had some conversation with the Public Safety Committee this evening about things that we are going to do to redeploy resources to try to become more visible and act as a deterrent. We were very excited to learn that the outlet mall is willing to give us a storefront to have a police station there, to have an office there that we can use, and that we can have cars there regularly that will act as a deterrent. We're going to be doing other things that, I can't get into in the public forum to try to fight this, but just know that the conversations are being had and we're coming up with ideas and we're trying to think out of the box to try to curb some of this. I think the only way that we're going to be able to do this is together and by continuing this conversation. And I've heard the concerns from the council members over the last week. They're the same concerns that I have as a citizen of this neighborhood, and my family lives here as well. So I share the same concerns. So I want to thank you for the opportunity for me to get up here and talk and tell my story. And I hope that the information on this memo that you have it before you will help in answering some questions. I'm here to answer any questions that you may have now.
Thank you, Chief. Does anyone in council have any questions or comments or concerns? Councilmember Colon.
I have a lot of questions, but I will give you the three I wrote down. The first one is Subway. So for preventative things, why were they not able to break into that Subway? And can we make this, if there was a specific reason for other businesses to use that?
In talking to the officers, and we're working under the assumption that maybe this was not a legitimate attempt to get in, that this was an attempt to set an alarm off and to find out how long it would take for us to get there.
Okay.
Because the exact same group, the very next morning, we're doing the Shell station. So I can't say for any certainty, but it seemed to me that the crew that's been doing these burglaries after we identified them, that it was a very immature manner to get into the Subway. Like they really didn't want to. So maybe it was a test for the police department.
Interesting. My second question is at Nike, when you couldn't chase them because they were dealing with their corporate people.
Mhm.
Were we not able to get a license plate number for later when they
Was-
fled?
It was already gone. They did not get a license plate. They had a description of the suspect that was inside the store stealing, but they had already left.
My third question, I'm sorry,
Mhm.
the Dropbox for businesses, so the money that got stolen from Volition and then way back in the summer, there was like a nutrition store. Is there not a place for them to drop off cash before they go home for the night and not leave it in their business?
I cannot speak to that, and each individual business would have to have some sort of night safe maybe, or a store policy that they don't leave cash in the store. I can tell you that the burglaries earlier that you mentioned, the earlier ones from the vitamin store, and then there was another one at Little Cy. Those people were identified and we have charged them. The incident at Volition that ended up on the news with the beer that was named after the Quarter Bandit, which I thought was really cool. That does not seem to be, it doesn't fit the same MO that we're talking about. There were some things that were different, so that's why it's not on here on this list.
Anybody else? Oh, Brennan, Councilmember Brennan Elwood.
They keep me on a tight leash.
I see that.
Thank you, Chief, for your report, and thank you for keeping us up to speed on the Public Health and Safety Committee. We have discussed this, and I do agree with you. I think this, hopefully praying that this is the end, but it may not be. It may just be the beginning as they're testing our resolve, they're testing our community responses and so forth. What does come out of the discussion, though, is because we are now paying greater attention to it, it will stimulate more creative thinking. Like, how can we work together, not only agencies, but also merchants? It's troubling to find out, it's troubling to learn that folks in a store working at our outlet mall have to call their corporate office first to get permission to dial 911 on a theft. Now, I can understand it from a safety perspective. Maybe they don't want their reps getting hurt or whatever, but there's a barrier there in that. To then find out that this is going to start trickling into our local smaller businesses is even more concerning. So what this does do is it could put some more thinking and some more collaboration in motion where we can work together. For example, in the past, what we've heard from small businesses is lighting downtown is not very good. It's uncomfortable for their store folks to walk to the car with cash in hand and things like that. The things that you're talking about, Councilmember Colin, are definitely the merchant's responsibility, but there could be something that we could do from public safety with respect to lighting, more police presence, those type of things. But those conversations have to happen. So unfortunately, it's now top of mind for us, but fortunately is top of mind so that we can start working on some creative issues to really help our small businesses and our citizens feel a lot more safer. So thank you for this. I'm sure there'll be more to come on this, and I know we are spitballing in the meeting, so I'm looking forward to more of that. Thank you.
Just to let you know, we did start the conversation at the end of the of last year with the Downtown Foundation, and we had a great turnout at the first meeting that they had. And I spoke there about the need for accurate reporting. I give you these stats, they are nowhere near what they actually truly are, because they're admittedly stores downtown and away from the outlet mall. We're not calling 911 because they didn't see the need. They're never getting their stuff back. It's only going to end up with them going to court if somebody's caught. So we've tried to do some education and tried to work with them. I know that we have officers that are going to the next meeting to give some information to the actual outlet mall specifically for those businesses. And we're moving in officers to do walkthroughs into the businesses to try to give them some tips on where to place merchandise and try to make it a little bit harder for the bad guys when they come in. So that is in the works.
Anyone else from council?
I
Oh,
guess.
sorry.
So I think that you hit on the outlet mall versus the downtown. Is there how are you staffed currently in terms of handling those seem like very different dynamics, right?
Mhm.
You're close to the highway versus downtown. Are we my concern is just having a plan that we can also communicate to the neighbors, right? Because we're getting calls, what are we doing? What's the plan? So how do we communicate what is different from our downtown kind of patrol or plan versus the highway and the outlet?
Right now, as a response to the activity over the last 10 days, we are doing saturation patrols and we're focusing on the corridor of Bendigo and down to North Bend Way and then up to the casino. And my sergeants have been advised that we are going to be high visibility during times where these are happening. The night shifts are going to be high visibility. I can't get into every strategic thing that we're doing in this setting, but I would be more than happy to have a conversation with you and let you know how we're redeploying. Our police officers are a very limited resource. And I think we're doing a great job of becoming fully staffed. Deployable, we are not. We are still down 7 or 8 spots deployable. We have people going to the academy with 2 of them that are still waiting for another month to go to the academy. We've got people on maternity leave. We've got people on training, military leave right now. So we are still running overtime shifts to cover the road, which I mentioned a little bit about the burnout and over the last 3 years, having to have our guys work 12-hour shifts instead of 10s. Having almost every day on every shift, there's an overtime shift. So I'm thankful that there are still some of the guys that are willing to pick those extra shifts up. But we are by no means a unlimited resource. So I'm having to think out of the box a lot on how we become more visible and how we take a better stance towards some of the hot spots in the city.
And my second question, based on the sort of skewed numbers to the outlet mall, if Nike went away, how would that impact North Bend in terms of the amount of activity that we've seen? Do you think Nike is a root cause of it, or is it?
I think
is it the outlet mall as a whole? And
I think it would be unfair.
Real quick, I'll just preface that because about a year ago, Issaquah had a conversation about Target. And there was a council conversation with the mayor saying, things don't change, we'll revoke their business license.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that we need to potentially discuss. If we're seeing a saturated effort in this corner of town, we weigh the opportunity cost. Is that worth it for our town to continue to see that? If anything, open the door in terms of a gateway of opportunity to the rest, right?
Sure. I would have to go back and look through the last several years of incidents specifically for Nike, and I can get you those numbers to let you know. I think it would be unfair right now to say that Nike is the problem without seeing how it balances out with other ones. We have thefts at the Sunglass Hut all the time. We had thefts at Coach, but that's one of the few that have stepped up to buy their own uniformed security officer that's there during the day. I recently went to the mall with Representative Kim Schreier, and we went in and spoke to the people at Coach, and they've got the wood up still with the man door where the car drove through it. And through these conversations, we're finding out that the limitations that the employees are put under. There's no business in there that will advocate their employees getting involved in a theft to try to stop it. They're all told to let it go. But we don't get the calls right away. There are shop lists from Michael Kors. There are shop lists from all over. Let me look into the Nike issue and.
Yeah, and I think
see.
specifically, if you got feedback the other night, or when was it, that their employee has to call their HQ before they can call the 911.
Yeah.
To me, that breaches a level where that's a conversation for us to have.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I understand an employer saying, hey, don't get involved. Obviously, public safety, I think arguably you guys would probably agree. We don't want the public trying to play superhero.
Sure.
But if they can't even call 911 or there's some limitation there, then I would argue that that's a conversation of the type of business that we would want in our town.
Yeah. To paint a clearer picture on what they're doing security wise at the mall. We were told in our meeting with the mall management and the mayor and Councilman Rustic were there as well. They have recently hired a after hours security person that rides around in the car with the yellow lights. This is it comes from a company that does not have a set roster. So we never know who's coming out there. It's just somebody new every time.
Yeah.
That has shown to be problematic, and to them admitting that, you know, there's been some incidents where they weren't where they should have been during an incident. Nike recently has hired overnight security to be outside of the store. However, 3 nights in a row, our officers called out with suspicious vehicles with people sleeping in the cars, and it's the security people with pillows and blankets. So we pass that information on to the management as well. It's a good try, but I think we need to have them take it seriously, and they need to, we need to up our game on the security there if they're going to have security. I mean, there's no reason to even have them if they're just going to be away from the property or sleeping. And, so I think the more conversations we have with the people that run the mall, with the premium outlet people, the better, because it answered a bunch of questions that we had. Every time I drive by, I was like, it would be so easy just to put gates up at night and not let anybody on the property. And I suggested that. And there's a federal law that says you cannot gate off a piece of property that has the Tesla charging stations. They have to have access 24/7. So that threw a wrench into that plan. I asked for all of the vegetation to be moved on the east side of Nike, so my officers can sit across the street at the Chevron at night and see through. And we were met with a little bit of resistance of being able to do that right away, because there's a company that's supposed to be contracted to do their landscaping, and it's all part of the putting in a new, a new trail system through there. And it seemed to be linked to the demolition that's coming and the new hotel that's coming. So it didn't seem like we were going to get a quick fix on that. But the more conversations that we had, I think it was better. It's not going to be the only meeting that we have. And once we have these scheduled, I would invite any council member to be there. I thought it was very educational. So I will let you guys know when that's taking place, and I'll let the public safety chair know so she can get the invitations out.
Thank you, Chief. Any other questions from council? Sure.
Actually, too, and thank you, Errol, because that is something that we talked about, is what's the cost that the citizens of North Bend are bearing the burden of from the outlet mall, right? So that's definitely on our radar from a committee standpoint, to start looking into creative opportunities, meeting with the merchants and so forth, as the chief talked about. And then so that's great. I was going to follow up on the flock cameras, though, just real quick, if I may. Those flock cameras would be purchased by the outlet mall, which is on private property. It's not the city of North Bend investing in those. It's not the city of North Bend facilitating that. Is that a correct understanding?
That is correct. From our conversation last week, they were very willing and excited to have those flock cameras, that they would foot the bill to buy the hardware to install them on private property. It would only pick up license plates that are on the property, so not on the city streets. And then they even would pay the approximately $2,000 a year for the subscription to the service. This is all early in the talking about this. But it presented some hope to us that, maybe they're willing to do some things. They've had some success up at the mall, the Tulalip Mall, with the flock cameras. So hopefully that comes.
Yep. And then in addition to potential annex for the police department to have more presence. And then, as you said, the hotel going in, more foot traffic, more citizen traffic, more resident traffic.
Yes.
More exposure, probably a negative correlation, then crime starts to drop.
There is. It's kind of like the broken window theory. And if you don't put money and invest into the property, it's going to invite what we're seeing now. And they know that. They have a 3 to 5 year plan that they laid out to us of all the things that they want to do. And they're just now starting. So.
Council. Absolutely.
Yeah, one final comment. Thank you, Chief Lynch, for both this afternoon and now coming today to talk about these important things. Just wanted my council members to know that the annex at the outlet mall would be at no cost to the city and also no cost to the police department. That was something that the communication with the outlet mall management was willing to do. And so they take this seriously. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you for mentioning that.
And to be totally clear, it'll be $1 a month leasing, so worth every penny and more.
Yes, I believe that too.
Yes, I don't mean to joke about it, by the way.
All
Um,
100 pennies.
Thank you, Chief. Please be safe out there with all of your officers.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to the main agenda, I'm gonna probably lean into you because I don't have anything.
Start with number 12.
Okay.
Is a motion authorized.
Okay, forgive me, I'm gonna lean over here. So, number 12, AB 24-17, motion approving North Bend Way Complete Streets Corridor Plan. Ms. Deming, please.
Thank you. We're going to go ahead and start with a presentation by our consultant, Fred with Parametric.
Thank you. As he gets that set up, Mayor, council member, city staff, thank you for having me here tonight to talk about this project. We've been working on it for probably 18 months, probably about. And many meetings with city staff, speaking with you and some of your predecessors over the last couple of years. So lots of excitement around this. So I have a short presentation and then open for discussions. And I'll go through basically the story arc of the project, what we did, what the key recommendations are, and then some of the benefits for Complete Streets. And I have to point back there to flip the screen. So the Complete Streets is really a movement across the nation. Communities all across the US have policies just like your ordinance. And it's really about making our streets safe and convenient for all users, all street users. And that's people driving cars, that's people walking, that is people riding bicycles, taking transit. So really these narrow corridors that we have for transportation, really maximizing the use for the movement of people safely and efficiently. And so early on, we had a lot of meetings with city staff to talk about what the project goals are. I'm not going to read them out, but they're in the document and I've talked to you about them before. I'm going to go through this somewhat fast. I don't think there's a lot of new stuff here. So we had a number of things, looked at existing conditions. So lots of work along the corridor so far. Parts have been rebuilt. There's your your form-based code that was adopted a few years ago. Fantastic, by the way. That really helped inform us on this. And then looked at zoning across the corridor and really tried to find a context-sensitive approach to the plan. We looked at safety and speed along the corridor. The top map shows a lot of where the hotspots are for crashes. And we identified strategies out of this that could help improve safety again for all roadway users. So a lot of traffic calming, minimizing conflicts at intersections, and thinking about managing access along the corridor. We also looked at evaluating the quality of the roadway for people walking and riding bikes. So we used a methodology produced by WashDOT they're using across the state right now, which is important because we wanted to make sure that our analysis coincided with any work that WashDOT might do on State Route 202, which crosses North Bend Way. So we use this, which is a measurement of level of stress that people walking and riding bicycles might feel as they travel along the corridor, takes into account speed, traffic volumes, and the cross section of the corridor and degree of separation for people walking or riding bikes. We had a robust engagement session last June. In this room, we had 2 meetings and we had an online survey. Some of the key things that came out of that, an interest in safety, multimodal travel, and livability, really quality of life, for, the character of North Bend. So getting into what the recommendations are, and this is really the bulk of the core of the document is these cross sections for each of these 5 segments. And this is really the thing that's in front of you to look at today. So I'm going to walk through these sequentially from west to east. So segment 1 is from the bridge to city limits. And that is a really wide right-of-way, wide street as it exists today. Given traffic volumes on that street now and projected into the future, there is a really great opportunity to reallocate that roadway space to easily accommodate traffic on half of that, reallocate the north half of that to a separated trail that will provide access from downtown North Bend to Tollgate Park, and then eventually potentially all the way to Snoqualmie. Downtown, segments 2 and 3, really so much work has been done there over the last 10, 15 years. Not a lot of opportunity to, no need to really change things. However, one comment that came up quite often in discussion was concern for parking. That's not uncommon in business districts. And so we see an opportunity to reallocate street space again on the downtown core to accommodate angled parking on one side. This would require the strategic removal in places of the center turn lane and the islands that are downtown right now. Segment 4 and 5, so that's the more than half of the corridor takes up 4 and 5. And here is the biggest potential for development along the corridor. Most of these 2 segments needs to be upgraded to accommodate additional traffic. What we looked at, your existing cross-section in your standards, that was a starting point. And we see opportunity to, instead of a dedicated center turn lane, the whole length of that corridor, using again a median for beautification and safety to really control where people are able to make lefts across traffic, which is can be a significant point of safety concerns. And then along this whole corridor, actually from east city limits to west, we're looking, except for downtown, there's a little jog, a shared use path, the whole length of the corridor. So separating bicycles and pedestrians from motorized traffic to provide recreational experience, connecting destinations, as well as ease of movement along the corridor. We also included, so that's the bulk of the document that is for your review. We included a lot of other strategies for placemaking and different ways to think about planting and giving character along the corridor. There's a lot in this document that is really focused on ideas of what the place could be. But it's really those cross sections that are helping frame up what the future is. And some of the benefits I included, last 2 slides here, benefits of complete streets, lots of studies for many years looking at the economic, safety, and health benefits and environmental benefits of complete streets. Lots of data on that. I'm happy to share more if you ever want to know. And finally, just to remind you, you're at the really interesting point in time. So the Great American Rail Trail passes right through North Bend. The Snoqualmie Valley Trail is part of that segment, or part of that. And this is a trail that goes from La Push on the Pacific Coast all the way to Washington, D.C. And it goes right through North Bend. So this trail crosses to the west, to the east, and the North Bend Way has the opportunity to really bring people into the heart of your community and onto Snoqualmie, and creating a network of trails here, which will really enhance livability for people living in North Bend and provide opportunities for further economic development, et cetera. But I just wanted to leave you that you have some fantastic opportunities ahead of you. And I'll take questions.
Any questions, council, for Mr. Young? Okay, Mr. Tremolo.
On segment 4.5, I think you had mentioned there would be a shared use trail. But I think and I just want to clarify, are you still proposing, or I guess the question is, do you typically still propose the bike lane on the road with the shared use trail as well?
Yes, so good question. There are, when we think about designing roadways for people riding bicycles and walking, the term we use often is all ages and abilities. And that is, so think about, 8 to 80 years old, and comfort for traveling along that corridor. So a shared use path that's separated from motor vehicles will absolutely do that. So that's what that facility is for. There are a lot of people that use North Bend Way that are very confident bicyclists, and they will continue to do that. So this is, but that bike lane is accommodating that group of people. It also functions, I don't think we've included a curb there, but because there's a swale. It can accommodate as a shoulder as well. So.
Any clarifying questions? Oh, excuse me.
Just a comment. I love this so much. I'm very excited about it. I've spent way too much time in my off time at work studying your plans. Don't tell them. But segment 2 and 3, I find really difficult on what would be the right decision down there for the parking. And that would be something we all need to discuss on how to redo that, but that's a really important part of our town.
Yep.
And that was the part I found a struggle, but the west end, the east end, I was like, so exciting. Thank you.
Any further? Oh, Brendan?
Well, I have a clarifying question for staff, so I can wait. Thank you for the presentation.
Anyone else? No? Okay, thank you, Fred.
Thank you
very much. Then you can ask your question.
It's more in regards to some public questions that came in that was forwarded about in the plan document of itself. There are some items that are suggested that as potential land acquisitions and so forth. That doesn't necessarily mean that the city is moving forward to acquire certain properties. So I'm just wondering if Ms. Deming, if you could speak to some of the concern that was expressed to us.
So that's correct. As Fred mentioned, there are, besides the road cross sections, there are multiple ideas and suggestions. The email that you guys received today is a particularly interesting site because that's right where the Snoqualmie Valley Trail crosses. And the situation that's out there now is not the best situation. So we wanted to make sure that this plan had some ideas and suggestions so that when that property develops, we can help make that crossing better in some way. Excuse me.
Thank you for that. And I just felt it was important to call out, we have a lot of stuff underway in the city and, a lot of these conversations pop up. It's just theoreticals, hypotheticals. And I recognize that sometimes you see it in print. If it affects you directly, you may say, wait, I don't know what's going on. They're going to seize my property and so forth. And that's not in the plan. And at least that's no conversations, at least this council or the previous council that I've heard of. So thank you for that clarification.
Thank you.
Okay, if any members of the audience would like to comment on this agenda item, we would invite you to come forward to the podium at this time. Please remember to state your name, your address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to speak. And welcome, Michael.
Good evening, council. Do have one advanced comment. My request for an accommodation wasn't properly honored to attend remotely. Folks, I saw no effort to pull this up at all during public comment period. And please note my request for remote attendance and testimony at this meeting and all future city councils. Thank you. With respect to this item, I have some reservations about this plan, especially for segments 4 and 5. One, I have concerns about the addition of miles of newer widened sidewalks or roads. This is a massive increase in impervious surface area. And as I recall from one of the Public Works workshops or whatever it was, that you lack a decant facility to treat stormwater. So how does increasing really, this is going to be acres and acres of impervious surface area. I don't see how this helps. And also I see it affecting groundwater and increasing groundwater throughout the whole city, groundwater rise. I'm also concerned about the use of planting strips. The big issue I see with this is a conflict with the city's water restrictions. Is this really a wasteful use of water? These take water to maintain. And first, frankly, you're already taking water away from citizens. Taking it away from median strips is just outrageous. Additionally, what about maintenance costs? So all these these median strips cost money to maintain and water. Is this really an appropriate use of city funds looking forward? Also, we're going to talk about this later, was WUI. Do these landscape strips proposed for the middle of road segments 4 and 5 create a spot where fire can hop across the road? And again, in consideration, you may not be able to water these things. Did you just suddenly create a bunch of fuel for fire to leap across roads? And finally, really am concerned about just the nature of this plan when I look at the conditions of the roads throughout the city. Conditions by, the services loop, the truck stop, and even my own neighborhood. Is this really an appropriate use of city dollars to spend on this kind of plan and this kind of beautification when we can't even maintain our own roads? Also, things such as, for example, would we benefit from greater ice and snow removal? Or other safety items such as increased striping and painting of curbs that would increase pedestrian safety and vehicle and bike safety at night? And I would urge the council to actually reject this plan. And this concludes my comment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael.
And just to put in information, could we have people who speak identify themselves with name and address, please?
Absolutely. This is Michael Thomas.
Sure, Mr. Jocelyn. It's Michael Thomas, 1231 LaForest Drive, SE.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jocelyn. Okay, I believe Councilmember Gotev, will you please make the motion?
Sure. Motion to approve AB 24-017, approving the North Bend Way Complete Streets Corridor Plan.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Gotev and seconded by Councilmember Colon. Let's see, is there any more? Would you like to speak to the comment? Or would you like to comment? Excuse me.
Now I'm gonna leave the comments to the rest of the council members and input from that, but it's something we've been working on. I think there's some exciting things in the plan. I think there's some concerns on certain areas where we have options, one of which is the parking and how that would change the look and feel of downtown, but I'll leave the rest to the council members.
Councilmember Colon, would you like any comments? No. Okay, thank you. You're very welcome. The motion before us is to approve AB 24-01.
Your Honor,
Whoops, yes. Sorry.
if I
Go
may,
ahead.
I just wanted to speak in
Motion,
favor.
apologies.
I mean, it is, and I can take an opportunity, yes.
Definitely.
Right, it's visioning. There's been so much conversation, effort. It's come before us a number of times. It's not perfect, but it's a work in progress that is open to ongoing conversation and construction, and it lays the foundation for grants and grant funding more so than anything else, and so I just want to call that out and make sure that folks are aware that it doesn't happen in a vacuum. Currently, there's lots of money available at the state and federal level that hopefully this will help leverage and bring those dollars to this city to fund not only this, but other infrastructure improvements, or make money that might be, used for this available elsewhere. It's one of the things I want to commend the staff on is their continued record of return on investment from investments such as this one. So I will be voting in support. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jocelyn. Any other comments from council? Mr. Tremolo.
Yeah, I'd echo Councilmember Jocelyn. I think this is a great vision for infrastructure. I think the east side of town has hundreds of folks, many young families. I'm one of them. And having that vision to connect the east side to the downtown core through pedestrian paths and bikes is just incredible. I think I speak for many of those families out there that it's something that's missing, will add value. And I think from a long-term economic development standpoint of how we're connecting the east side of town, developing that for the future value of North Bend, that's going to be a huge value add. I acknowledge Council member Cullen, the downtown segment's going to be a challenge. I think the one call out I would hope is that we are as collaborative as possible with those merchants and maybe take a hands-on approach for ourselves to see what that looks like when you're standing at the curb and what that depth looked like. But that's all part of the process. So I'm very happy to see this moving forward and moving the vision forward. So definitely fully support it.
Thank you. And Councilmember Elwood, I believe you had your hand up.
Yes, I was just gonna echo Councilmember Jocelyn's sentiments and now Councilmember Tremolata's sentiment. So I do hope this passed. Thank you.
Anybody else? No? Okay, now I won't jump any further, but I got a little excited, I guess. The motion before us is to approve AB 24017, approving the North Bend Way Complete Streets Corridor Plan. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Opposed? Looks like motion passes unanimously. Yeah. Okay, let's move on to item 14, AB 24-018, motion authorizing contract with G&O regarding Gardner Creek / Northwest 8th Street flooding. Mr. Moore, would you be kind enough to provide us the staff report?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As the Mayor indicated, this is a professional services contract with GNO to provide an alternative analysis study for the Gardner Creek culvert crossing on Northwest 8th Street, just west of the entrance to the Nintendo facility off Northwest 8th Street. A few possible alternatives to fix this drainage and flooding problem are box culvert, arch culvert, or a bridge, just to name a few. GNO would provide a conceptual level design of all these alternatives along with cost estimates as part of their contract. This project is listed on our stormwater capital improvement plan, and a recent petition from property owners along Northwest 8th Street to form a roadway improvement and culvert replacement ULID along the stretch of Northwest 8th Street from North Bend Way to where it dead ends about 1,500 to 1,800 feet to the west is what's driving this work with GNO. There's 7 properties currently associated with this ULID, and 4 of the property owners have signed the petition, making up 75% of the land area, which puts us beyond the 50% threshold to kind of move this ULID process forward. So the next step in this ULID process is to come up with basically cost estimates for the project, which is what we're doing with this GNO contract. And then that would be followed up by a special benefits study to kind of determine the preliminary assessments for all the property owners within the ULID boundary. The special benefits study contract would be brought to committee and council at a later date once we get cost estimates done. So this contract was brought to the Transportation and Public Works Committee in January. It was recommended for approval. The cost for this contract would be reimbursable if council decided to move forward with this ULID down the road. So staff recommends moving forward with this contract with GNO. And if you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, Tom. Does council have any clarifying questions? Seeing none? Oh, sorry, excuse me.
Just to be clear, this was brought forward to your department from the property owners. This is not something that the city sought to do on its own.
Correct.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, if any members of the audience would like to comment on this agenda item, we would invite you to come forward to the podium at this time. Please remember to state your name, your address, and you do have 3 minutes to speak. Hello, Mr. Yee. Welcome. Nice to see you.
Good to see you again.
Thank you.
Jeffrey Yee. I live at 12117 Southeast 261st Court, Kent. I'm here to discuss my support of the Gardner Creek ULID, but I have not signed the petition because I wanted to let and most of the folks in the city know, but I don't think specifically a lot of the city council members know that my property is different than the other properties, property owners who signed the petition in that there's development constraints. I mean, I have topographical issues, wetland hydrology, which prevents me from developing my property, to create value to pay for these assessments, in a similar way that, the Bettis property across the street from me or the Vector development property next to me is able to. So again, I wanted to take this opportunity to get face to face with you folks, and I sent to Rebecca Deming a sort of a summary of my property, the 24 acres, kitty corner from Nintendo. I'd love to have the opportunity to meet with you individually and just kind of brainstorm and discuss how we might be able to do something together in moving this thing forward, so I can do something with my property to create some value, so I can pay for these additional assessments, which increase value to the city. So I was gonna have a 3-page speech here, but I'm gonna waive that till and have a personal discussion with you folks later. So anyway, I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yee.
Thanks.
Anyone else? I think so. All right, Councilmember Colin, Chair of TPW, I believe this came through. Do you make a motion here?
Sure. Motion to approve AB 24-018, authorizing the mayor to execute a contract with Gray and Osborne Incorporated to prepare an alternative analysis study to remedy the Gardner Creek / Northwest 8th Street flooding in a final form and content acceptable to the city attorney in an amount not to exceed $37,900.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Jocelyn. Motion by Councilmember Colin and seconded by Mr. Jocelyn. Let's see, would anyone else, would you like to speak to your comment? Would you like to comment?
I would not.
Okay. Mr. Jocelyn, do you have any additional comments? Okay, thank you. Anyone in council? Okay, Mr. Elvin.
Thank you, Mr. Moore, for the introduction. I'm curious, how does this stack in with all of the other projects that the city is currently doing, prioritizations and so forth? I know we have a lot on our docket. We're doing a lot of good things. But I also know resources and bandwidth are also strapped. How does this play into the whole strategy of what we're working with?
So we have the sewer ULID out there, the Meadowbrook sewer ULID, which we just got 30% design for this last week. So it finished design this year, construction next year. So deepest utility goes first. So that'll be constructed next year. We're in 30 to 60% design for water main extension along Northwest 8th Street from Bendigo to that dead end on Northwest 8th Street. So that we're looking to get that out to construction this year to get that utility taken care of on the roadway. And then this ULID would obviously take care of roadway improvements, storm drainage, and then the Gardner Creek crossing. So we're just kind of working our way up. So that this ULID, if it was formed for this roadway, would probably be a 26 construction with all the permitting required. And then you balance that with all the potential private development adjacent to that. I know, I think the property for, excuse me, I'm losing the name of it here. The Mount Sinai Industrial is what it's named right now. They're looking to push that for construction in 25. So we're trying to, in some ways, best we can line up with construction on the private development side as well. So
if I were to echo back all the great words that you just said in the simple sentences, it would be folded into everything else that's going on out there at the same time?
For the most part, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any additional council questions or comments? No. Okay, motion before us is to approve AB 24-018, authorizing the mayor to execute a contract with Gray and Osborne, Inc. to prepare an alternatives analysis study to remedy the Gardner Creek / Northwest 8th Street flooding in a final form and content acceptable to the city attorney in an amount not to exceed $37,900. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we are passing that motion unanimously. Okay.
To the end of number 15.
Okay, we're,
Ordinance that.
yep. Okay, so now we're gonna go back. We're doing, eight, was number 10 on our consent agenda. Now we're gonna talk to that. It's AB 24-016 ordinance amending NBMC Title 15 Buildings and Construction. Ms. Deming, would you please provide the report?
Thank you. The state legislature established the state building code to require application of uniform construction codes for the state. The legislature adopted the 2021 international codes as the new minimum construction codes for the state of Washington. This was initially expected to become effective July 1st, 2023. However, the state delayed the effective date until March 15th, 2024, which is why we're in front of you now. In 2021, the city council updated the state building and construction codes chapter so as not to need to update the code every time a new edition was brought by reference, as our current code references the current edition now. However, there have been some minor changes to both the International Fire Code and a brand new code regarding the Wildland Urban Interface Code that required us to bring this back for amendments. The amendments are in the ordinance attached, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any clarifying questions from council?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Elwood.
Thank you. And just for context as to why I pulled this tonight, I think it's important that the public understand that sometimes there's a lot of decisions that aren't made in a vacuum, using council members Jocelyn's words, and the state will mandate certain things for us to do. Part of those mandates require updating certain codes, whether we like it or not. And so just, one clarifying question here, which you've already answered, which is this is a state mandated thing. We're adopting what the state is requiring us to adopt, correct?
Correct.
There's nothing in this code that the city of North Bend in its great wisdom is adding on or tacking to in addition to what the state is already requiring us to do, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. Those are all my questions.
Any other clarifying?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Jocelyn.
Just to clarify that the primary driver and the majority of the updates do seek to address the urban wildland urban interface, which with changing climates and more extreme events seems prudent. But it's fair to say that the primary driver here and the reason for the updates to the code are focused around that urban wildland interface.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Any other question? Ms. Rustic.
Since I second this, I also thank you, Councilmember Jocelyn, for that. That is the driver behind this is the wildfire, which I think, we've all seen the impacts of some of the disasters that have occurred around the country. And so I think this is an attempt for the state to try and make some changes to help and make sure we don't get into those situations. I do acknowledge that these required changes could have an impact on some of our citizens. And, that is one of the downsides to it, but overall, it's in the best interest of the greater good to make these adjustments. So anyway, thank you, Councilman Rebecca, for clarifying these.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, item 10, AB 24-016, ordinance amending NBMC Title 15 Building and Construction. Let's see.
Mayor, did you want to ask if anybody in the audience wish to have comments?
That'd be very kind of me. If any members of the audience would like to comment on this agenda item, we would invite you to the podium at this time. And please remember to state your name, your address, and you have 3 minutes to speak. Hi, Michael.
Sure. Mike Thomas, 1231 LaForest. I want to thank council for moving this to regular agenda. I view an item of this nature doesn't belong on consent agenda. I'd certainly agree that we should adjust our code for our wildfire risks. And I'm actually glad to see that there's no deviation from the state code, but that wasn't my primary concern. In the past, much of our code was really tilted towards, keeping costs low for permitting on single family residential. I really am struggling with, the guidance and the fees one might have for something as simple as window replacement, where, most of the windows are going to comply with this code right off the bat. So I question the value of really the permitting and then having knowledge of what the fees may be. is a real thing, and what may attract when you try to, do what may be simple. Many people defer changes to their properties for fear of attracting other state code requirements. There's really insufficient guidance to say what local guidance is going to be, which is why I'm concerned that there really hasn't been sufficient debate or knowledge of what this code may entail. Windows play structures, I think, are a similar area. I also am concerned about the WE code itself. There's one way to comply with this, which is to comply with 501(4) through 8. But there's another part of the code in the state code that also talks about compliance based on risks. You may actually end up with no requirements on fire resistance if you follow the state code. So I think this is important. And what people might do to comply to that might be literally to cut down all their trees, reduce the fuels, reduce the fire risk to their homes. Does this have unintended environmental consequences? Are we increasing heat for our city? Do we decrease shade? Do we decrease that environment for animals or birds or pollinators? I think this code could have very unintended consequences if you actually follow the state code to the letter. The code's it's not cheap to replace windows, 2%, on a $30,000 window replacement job. I think 600 when most of the stuff is going to comply off the bat. Multi-layered glass, 2-pane windows automatically comply. So I have concerns about this from day one. The other thing was also requirements for electronic submission. Window replacement and sheds are within DIY scope. Have you accidentally included parts of the code that were really for contractors or developers, and suddenly this is now part of single family residential code? I would really encourage council to read this. And I was taken aback by an error referencing City of Issaquah. Tells me people didn't read this code. It's really an important thing. Also on the other item is the limit on state structures is 200 square feet, not 120, is per the code. And also I do find that other cities are providing a lot more guidance. For example, comment I provided to council, City of Bainbridge has some really excellent guidance on how to comply the code and how to meet other ways to comply to the new wildland interface, urban interface code. Which
Michael, if you could summary.
Thank you very much. And I appreciate your consideration. And I urge you actually not to adopt this without further debate. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Okay, item number ordinance, let's see, AB 24-016, ordinance amending NBMC Title 15 Building and Construction. All in favor?
Point of order, Mayor. We know the motion and the second, and then debate amongst council.
I'm just having a lot of fun tonight. Okay. Yeah, well, there you go. Let's see, can I have a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve AB 24-016, an ordinance amending chapter 15 of the North Bend Municipal Code to adopt the current state building code as a first and final reading.
Thank you. And a second, please.
Second.
Okay, motion approved by Mr. Jocelyn, seconded by Ms. Colon. Yep, and if you have anything more to say or add?
Simply, the points have been made that I think are valid in terms, it is a balance. It is adopting the state code, which the city is required to do. It's not absent its challenges. And I'll leave it at that.
Mr. Jocelyn, Ms. Colon.
I echo Mr. Jocelyn.
Thank you. And any other comments?
I had a question. Can I ask Rebecca a question? Or is that?
I believe that's fine. Yeah, go right ahead.
Clarifying, just because it's been mentioned twice by council now, maybe it's worthwhile saying out for the public. This is a state code that we're adopting. What if we didn't?
We're required by law to follow these minimum standards. Some of the points that were brought up, just because they have to meet the minimum standards in our building code does not mean they are not required to still meet the other sections of our code as well. So for instance, the example that was brought up, you still have to meet our landscape code and the wildland urban interface code. So that doesn't really answer your question, but the law states we need to follow the state building code.
Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna read that again, aren't I? Item 10. Do I have? Oh, Brenda, I'm sorry. I missed you over there.
That's okay.
Apologies.
No, I appreciate that you're trying to get us through the efficiency of the meeting, Your Honor. I do appreciate
I'm
that.
just trying. Thank you.
And I'm biting my tongue not to speak so much tonight, but sometimes I have to.
Okay.
No, there are elements of this code that I question. I'm perplexed by, but we have to adopt it. But as with anything, when state legislature is trying to bring about change because of traumatic events like wildfires and things like that, they have to get the ball rolling. I imagine that there will be things that will be challenged, that things will possibly be amended over time. As municipalities start to adopt these certain codes and they get pushback and they need better guidance and so forth. That is what I foresee will happening, but that doesn't stop us from what we have to do tonight, which is adopting the state legislature and the state code into our code. So while I question some of these things in here, I understand the significance of it and I will be voting in favor of it.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Mrs. Torgerson.
I don't like the change at all, but I'm gonna vote for it because by state law, we have to do it, so. But I agree with a lot of people that the things that they made as changes in there, I'm not happy about it, but I'll be supporting it.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else I'm missing? Anybody? Okay. Am I gonna read this one more time? Item 10. I'm being very proficient about reading this one.
You're doing well.
AB 24-016, ordinance amending NBMC Title 15, Building and Construction. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, at this time, I think we're moving on to. Okay, we are moving on to mayor, council, and administrator concerns and initiatives. And let's start with Mr. Elwood, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. I think there was testimony earlier tonight about power outages, and that is actually one of the items that I'll be bringing to public health and safety. I feel that there should be more proactive, I guess, assessment, auditing, whatever you call it, from the power company, looking at those things and where the lines are, accessibility, what are the problems to access certain areas, tree trimming, proactive things. So those are topics that I'll definitely be bringing to the Public Health and Safety Committee. I think those are relevant for us to look at, in addition to more merchant engagement, specifically with the kind of smash and grab crime spree that's now hitting North Bend. It's great to hear that the chief and the department and even some of our own colleagues here have already started those conversations. So I imagine more proactive, productive conversations and collaborations coming out of it, specifically as that will start to tailor to our downtown foundation and to our small businesses. Those are important issues. And I hope that all citizens think about this because both of those particular items impact everybody 100%. And so, when you're downtown, when you're visiting our shops and our clerks and stuff, talk to them, support them, be vigilant, report things. There's a lot of things that I think citizens can do apart from just turning a blind eye or just thinking, oh, everything's honky-dory. Right now, what we're seeing in the last 3 weeks, things may not be honky-dory. And so report those suspicious activities. Thank you.
Councilmember Torgerson.
Yes, well, I want to thank the chief and the entire police department for all the work they've been doing. They've been super busy. I'm sorry they're having to be overworked. I'm sad that their state legislature has unfortunately put them in a bad position, and our entire community, unfortunately, has been getting the response of that. I also agree with Councilman Elwood. I'm on that committee, so I'll be happy to talk to you about the power outages because I think that's something we definitely should address as well. Other than that, I'm ready. Oh, yes, that's true. Thanks. Yeah, I'm super happy about the skate park getting internationally recognized. Torgerson Skate Park, woohoo.
Thank you. Councilmember Colin.
Yeah, in regards to the recent crime events, I've been thinking about it quite a bit. I was out of town when all of this went down, but I heard about it. So I would like the public to know that our police force is doing their jobs with the tools that they have, and they are not responsible for the crimes that have happened. They are here to deal with the crime if and when it happens. But if the public would like to help, please reach out to your district representatives, Senator Hawkins in District 12 and Senator Mullet in District 3, on legislation that can reduce or criminalize activity and provide stricter laws. So please reach out to your representatives. That's it. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Councilmember Tremolata.
Yeah, I would echo everything my fellow council members have said about the crime. I would also say that I would view this, and my neighborhood has viewed this as an opportunity for neighbors to talk to neighbors. It is without a doubt an active pursuit that we can take on as members of this community to make sure our neighborhoods are safe. Our HOA is discussing plans. Actually, we've discussed flock ourselves. You also have constitutional rights to keep your family and your neighborhood safe that you should take seriously. The police, as Councilmember Cohen said, the police are here to react, but if we can send a message as residents of North Bend that this is not a town that we welcome that kind of activity. So I would encourage you to talk to your neighbors, to talk to your friends, talk to your local merchants, be aware, see something, say something, and sort of, for lack of a better word, punch back in terms of public safety and let them know that we don't welcome that in our town. And I think we can be active to support not only the police department, but our merchants in that way. So I would encourage conversations to start if they haven't already.
And Councilmember Jocelyn.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to thank Parametrics for their ongoing persistent engagement with the staff and council. I'd like to thank city staff for the branch drop-off this past Saturday. Thankfully, I wasn't at a council retreat, so I got to take advantage of it. I also want to recognize and acknowledge city staff for their role in the soon-to-be-opened Tanner Trailhead Park within the city of North Bend. It is a project over 7 years in the making. This collaborative effort between the city, the Skyview MPD, and King County-based Trust for Public Lands working together for more than 7 years is a testament to the value and of persistence. Yet that's the nature of public service. It takes vision, it takes time, and it takes agencies willing to be able to generate public support and to work together. So thank you, city staff, and Mike McCarty in particular. I see he's absent this evening. But for his vision and persistence. It may be less well known, but worthy of note that the Skyview MPD has secured $500,000 in grant funding in collaboration with King County and Washington State DNR, and is already moving forward to construct trail connections from the soon to be open Tenant Trailhead Park to Snoqualmie Point Park and beyond. This will create one of the most exciting and extensive mountain bike networks in the entire country. Maybe it too will win an award, although perhaps not from the Concrete Association. There will be another, this will be another affirmation of the city of North Bend's brand as easy to reach, hard to leave, although perhaps on a mountain bike, it goes both ways. Secondly, I wanted to address the upcoming council retreat this weekend. I wanted to share a few brief thoughts on the essence of the franchise and what we as council members are doing here together tonight and most every first and third Tuesday of every month, in my opinion. We are gifted with responsibility, yet to me, it's like magic. When we are in session, and only then, we are granted certain powers. As council members, we are expected to work together and deliberatively to come to the best decision possible, particularly those decisions that directly impact people's lives. We are here to help govern a city, a vibrant, growing, ever-changing city. Just look at this council. After 2 years, I'm fourth in seniority. I expect for the two most senior elder council members, it might be a bit unsettling. But what once was is born new again. I have little idea what the three new council members think. We have met but once as a council and due in part to weather. But I am optimistic and wise enough to know that I need to be attentive and patient and listen as best I can as their insight and perspective reveals itself over time. Plain and simple, I am learning and seeking to learn what you all think going forward. So I look forward to our retreat this weekend. It's an infrequent opportunity to be in actual conversation because these meetings are not that. These are discussions as exhibited by the fact that I get to keep talking. With that in mind, I want to share a bit of wisdom from Anne McFarlane of Jurassic Parliament, to business in service to good governance. She states, and I quote, "The hope in a governing body is that all will share thoughts and views, and that out of the discussion, a collective wisdom will emerge. Under the right conditions, groups can make decisions that are much better than any individual would make," end quote. She goes on to point out that one of the key requirements in obtaining this challenging yet desired outcome is the need for courtesy and respect. Quote, "Due to the way the human brain works, groups whose members insult each other or who question the motives of fellow members cannot make good decisions. The emotions and upset from such challenges interfere with the members' ability to think calmly and rationally." So here we are together in a moment of magic, hopefully looking forward to the weekend retreat together. I will end with this, circling back to the imminent opening of Tenant Trailhead Park. I agree with the founding principle of East Side Fire and Rescue, of which Councilmember Gotthelf was a founding member and an initial director. The principle states in part, quote, "The agency was founded on the principle that we are better together as partners than apart when it comes to economics, resources, and governance," end quote. Thank you, Alan, for such clarity going forward. I hope to see you all on Saturday.
Councilmember Rustic. I have to follow that. Yes, you do. Just, I'll keep it brief. I just want to thank the scouts that were here tonight and their parents and their leaders for coming to lead us in the flag salute. I hope we will have an opportunity to do that more frequently. And I had an opportunity to speak to some of the residents about, and it came up tonight, all the potholes on I-90 and the road conditions there. And a number of residents shared with me that they had contacted the Washington Department of Transportation, and some of the feedback they received was, "Oh, we never get out to North Bend." So I would encourage everybody, please, if you, contact Washington Department of Transportation, the more of us that do that. I know they're working, but hopefully maybe that'll help make a difference. So thank you. Okay, and Mayor Pro Tem Alan Goldtell.
Thank you. Well, first I'd like to thank Councilmember Jocelyn for pointing out this weekend's event and give me an opportunity to thank those that have been part of developing what we're going to go forward with. And I'm looking forward to it as setting up our future plans for the rest of the year and guiding our work studies. And also, the important part is Mr. Jocelyn is getting everybody's input and starting to get this council kind of coalesce and work together. So I hope you're all ready for a fun event. We're gonna go over what currently is in the work plan, and then we're gonna discuss what you want to move forward, and then a lot of different things. So thank you to the mayor and the rest of the staff and the help of Heather to put this together, and hopefully we'll have a good retreat. Please keep your mind open and be ready for a good discussion. The other thing I'd like to kind of mention, since we keep talking about the WUI, East Side Fire and Rescue do have personnel that can come out. If you're part of the WUI, they'll come out and assess your residents on the best way to protect your resident. It is not clear cutting. There's a lot of other things you can do to make your place ready. The other statement is, I know there's statements about the water. I don't think we've ever fined anybody under the water ordinance, and I don't think anybody's exceeded the number of watering. So I'm not sure it really holds people back on not taking anybody's water. And I want to make that clear. That's all I have for you tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Miller.
I just want to tell the council, we had a ball last night. We had the Citizens Academy. We had 18 people here. They were really excited about what we presented. The history lesson was great. And we kind of told them about all of the initiatives that we're working on. And the list was so long, I thought they were going to glaze over. But instead of that, they came up with tons of questions. They are engaged, they're interested, and this is a very special community. And you know, the first time we had the Citizens Academy, most people only been here a year and a half, but we had people that have been here 3 generations. And others have been here 27 and 28 years. So a whole different crop of people. There were 18 of them. They're excited about all of the classes coming up. So I think it's one of the better things we've done to outreach to our community and let them know about the hard work that you and we are doing together. And it was very, very positive. So I just want you all to know that you're going to get some feedback from these guys. If you have commission openings, you're going to have people running for them. So really a good session. It's first of all. Now this year we have actually expanded it to include the Skyview Metropolitan Park District, because they are in fact kind of our big partner in parks, and they are very important in terms of operating all of our recreation programs, which are so important to the community. So we've got a full compendium of all of the services that are offered here for people. And I just want you to know, you're probably going to get some feedback from the Citizens Academy. They were very, very pleased, and it was a lot of fun to do.
Thank you. Okay, I would like to extend my condolences to the family and friends of Bert Mann. As many of you know, Mr. Mann passed away recently, just shy of 101. And Bert was 2018 North Bend Citizen of the Year, who was known for his joyful spirit, his consistent daily walks throughout North Bend, and much, much more. Friends of Bert Mann organized a celebration, which will be tomorrow, Celebration of Life, tomorrow at Skyview Community Center. It would have been his 101st birthday. It's at 4 p.m. So that's February 7th. Anyone is welcome to join. So please do if you can. Washington State DOT is closing westbound SR 18 from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. Monday through Friday. Work will continue through the end of March. People should plan up to 20-minute delays, as a pilot vehicle will guide traffic through a single lane along a 2-mile stretch between Lake Creek and Deep Creek, just east of Tiger Mountain Summit. The city hosted a storm debris collection event last Saturday. It was a huge success with about 76 attendees. The turnout was higher than average for yard waste event. Thank you for our hard work, to our hardworking public works staff for all you do. And show downtown North Bend a little love by joining the North Bend Downtown Foundation Wednesday, February 14th, Valentine's Day at 9 a.m. to walk around and clean up litter and debris to beautify our city. This North Bend Downtown Foundation will provide gloves, garbage bags, and safety vests. And I want to also add that I stand by all the words about our recent crime, as my council members or our council members are saying tonight. I'll do all I can to support them and our efforts to keep each and every one of you safe, and our businesses. That's one of my hugest missions here. And I know we feel all that same there. Also, I want to let you know that I'm excited about a treat myself. There's a lot of effort, a lot has been pulled together to make this a success, but we need each and every one of you to feel comfortable, to speak from your heart, to feel relaxed and enjoy communicating with us. We're getting to know each other. We're going to do great things together. I have no doubt. I'm very proud of you already. And thank you. I'm proud of our staff. You're amazing. And I can't thank you all enough. Everybody have a great night. Okay, with that, we will now recess the meeting for an executive session.
I move we adjourn.
Oh, well, we're almost there, but executive session to discuss collective bargaining negotiations pursuant to RCW 42.30.140 and property acquisition pursuant of RCW 42.30.110. The executive session is expected to last 20 minutes. As there is no action anticipated as a result of the executive session, the videotaping of this meeting will stop at this time. Everybody have a great night. Thank you so much.